These 6 scholars of Joseph's first vision have quite different personalities. Their writings sound different. They emphasize different aspects of Joseph's experience. There is, however, one thing they share in common with each other and with Joseph. They are seekers. To seek is to search or quest for the unknown.
The Oxford English Dictionary defines a seeker as a searcher, an explorer, one who endeavors to find something hidden or lost, as in seeker after truth. In his accounts, Joseph tells us that he lacked knowledge, the ultimate knowledge of salvation. He desired it badly. He thought, read, observed, analyzed, and finally prayed to find it. He worked hard for it. He struggled. Seeking is active, not passive. Seeking is not spiritual or intellectual. Seeking is spiritual and intellectual. Seeking is the investment of one's best brain work, spiritual sensitivities, moral judgments, and emotional vulnerabilities. Seeking is hard. Seeking is humble. And seeking is the way to truth. Assuming is the enemy of seeking. To assume is to pretend to possess knowledge. Assumers avoid the hard work of seeking. Assumptions are not knowledge, but often those who hold them do not discern the difference.
This dictionary work has everything to do with the accounts of Joseph Smith's first vision. One must approach Joseph's vision either as a seeker or an assumer.
Unbelieving assumers largely have to discount the historical record altogether. They might be willing to grant that Joseph believed he had had a vision, but they are unwilling to believe his multiple accounts affirming emphatically that he did indeed have a vision. Believing assumers largely ignore the historical record. They are uninterested, passive. They don't bother to seek more knowledge than they already have. My mentors and I are worried about a particular type of assumer. These ones go from believing Joseph to not believing him when they learn of the various accounts of his vision. We are a little puzzled at this choice. Some critics have asserted that if folks really knew the multiple accounts of the vision, they wouldn't believe it. How can that be? The 6 scholars I introduced know the accounts inside out and have written and taught about them for half a century, and they all believe.
The evidence just built tidbit upon tidbit, detail upon detail, document upon document, evidence upon evidence, to the point where I got to it became a compelling reality to me that these things exist and that it's evidence that Joseph Smith believed what he said he did.
Joseph Smith was a prophet. He couldn't have accomplished what he did without the Lord being with him. The more you study the writings of Joseph, now I think that's one of the advantages of reading the writings of Joseph. You read the writings of Joseph and compare it with the Doctrine and Covenants in the Book of Mormon, and you'll see there's 2 Josephs. Joseph Smith, the man, could not have written the Book of Mormon. He could not have dictated the sections of the Revelations. He wasn't brilliant. He wasn't a great thinker. He was just a common American farmer who was lifted up above his ability.
I have had the experience of going through that material in a way that it's told me that this has to be the only explanation for it, is Joseph Smith's explanation.
I'm willing to be led to where the documents lead me. That's what a historian is. If the documents say it, you have to account for it. You have to fit your story into what you're told happened. And every time I go to the documents, I find verification for church history and Joseph Smith's story of the first vision.
He was who he said he was. And all of that added up to that conclusion to me. I cannot see any other explanation.
These historians do not believe simply because they know the historical facts. Knowing the historical facts is not the determinant of belief or unbelief. Seekers, like my mentors, don't build on sand. They avoid making assumptions in the first place. They recognize early in their quest for knowledge that Joseph Smith was the only witness to what happened in the grove. They don't assume what it would be like to have such an experience. They knew that they didn't know. They therefore sought knowledge from one who testified that he knew. They let Joseph describe his own experience and learned all they could about the context in which he described it, which explains why they are the ones who know the documents best.